Good morning, children. How are you this morning? Well, we're going to have our Sunday school class again this way. And remember, our lessons are about Moses. And today we're going to have another lesson about something that happened in his life and something that really was sad and that was a stain on the history of the children of Israel. And that was that they fell into idolatry so quickly, even while Moses was still up on the mountain talking to God. And the person who was responsible for it was Aaron, Moses' own brother. And he had been right there with Moses through all of the things that the plagues and everything in Israel, and going through the Red Sea and being delivered from Egypt, and being delivered from Egypt, and just, right there with Moses. He was one of the priests, and he actually was the high priest, and he was the one who fell. And so that story is about the golden calf. I don't know if you've heard about that or not. So let's back up a little bit, and we're going to talk again about a little bit about what we talked about last Sunday, which was about the Ten Commandments. But before we do that, let's introduce our Sunday school class again. So we've got Rosemary with us again, my little Amish doll, and Molly just jumped up here. Her tail might come in the picture, but maybe not. I think she's going to try to stay down. Okay, and then the lamb and the worm. And the lamb and the worm don't have names, so. Okay, keep your little paws together so you don't get them down into the worm's eyes. So the lesson this Sunday is about the golden calf, and what we're going to talk a little bit about last Sunday's lesson. Remember the Ten Commandments. The very first one is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And then the second one was, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. And then there were several other commandments before it came down to the ninth one, which is, Molly is breaking my concentration here, which is, thou shalt bear false witness, which we forgot to talk about last Sunday, and that's about lying. Those were the three sins that the children of Israel committed, especially Aaron. Aaron was the one who told a lie. So let's get into the story. Moses is up on top of the mountain with God 40 days and 40 nights, and he did not eat or drink anything during that time. I don't know how he lived, but Jesus said, I am the bread of life, and he was also the living water. God's word is, or water in the Bible is often a type of God's word. And I believe it was literally God who sustained Moses during that time. I don't know if he was hungry or thirsty or not, but for 40 days and 40 nights he did not eat or drink anything, and he communed with God that time. Okay, Molly was rocking my camera. And that was such a special time for Moses. But for the people down on off the mountain, they got so tired of waiting for him. 40 days. Now we are about at the 40-day mark of the quarantine, so that's kind of how we can sort of estimate how long it was that they waited for Moses and finally gave up on him. And they went to Aaron and they told him, we don't know what has become of Moses. Oh, Molly, she would have to do this. Okay, so she wants up in the bookcase right now. I don't know if I can talk with her up there or not, but I will try, because trying to get her down right now is, I'll have to completely stop and put her outside. So we'll just let her roam around. A little stinker. So they told Aaron to just make them a different God, because they don't know what became of this Moses, and they wanted a God that they could actually lay eyes on. And they were pretty afraid of the real God. The real God was making, sorry, she's making the camera shake, was making the mountain shake and the rumbling and the lightnings and thunders and the smoke like a furnace. And they were afraid of him. And they didn't want him talking to them. And so Aaron said, okay, everybody take your earrings out of your ears. It says break them off. I don't know if they were just like embedded in their ears that they couldn't take them out, or it says they broke them off. Broke them off of the women, it said, their wives and their sons and their daughters. So it was a pretty common practice to wear earrings, and they were made of gold. And they brought that gold to Aaron, and it says that he formed a calf out of those gold earrings. And he set that calf up, and then he built an altar in front of the calf where they offered sacrifices, burnt offerings, to the calf. What makes this, oh, I brought these along to kind of show you. I don't really have a plastic toy cow besides this one. Can you see it? That kind of looks like a bull. How many of y'all love bulls? You love being around them. This is a little bigger plastic toy, but it's a goat. It's a billy goat, actually. They can be pretty fierce too. I would not want to be around a billy goat with horns like that. Okay, bulls were often used as gods because they're so big and considered very powerful. And actually the god Baal was a bull. And there was a lot of wickedness that went with worshiping Baal. And but there were a lot of gods in those days who were bulls. So for them, for Aaron to go make a calf, probably a bull calf, and set it up as a god, there was not really anything unusual about that, because that was just common in those days. And it was also common to have lots of gods. And the one true God was a god to them, but they also had other gods. And here, after all that God had done for them, miraculously delivered them from the slavery of Egypt and fed them food and meat and water out in the wilderness, and now and then led them yet with his Shekinah glory, is what it's called, with a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night for light. And I mean, he had just done so many things for them. How could he have done any more? And yet they were not faithful to him. For very short periods of time would they be faithful to him. And this, again, shows up a little bit what we talked about last week about having high thoughts of ourselves and low thoughts of God. It's also easy to bring God down to the human level and elevate something else, his creation, something that God created. We might elevate to a higher level than what we hold God at, you know. And so it's extremely dangerous. With idol worship, almost always goes extreme wickedness, from violence and bloodshed to immorality to it just goes on and on and on. It just gets worse and worse. Idol worship brings human behavior down to its lowest level, whereas God worship brings our behavior up to where we want to be like Christ, who was perfect. That's what we want to be like. So God was very upset, and when they began worshiping this idol, and so he told Moses to go down to the people and to stop them, and he was going to punish them by killing them and telling Moses, I will raise you up another people. Well, Moses went down to the mountain, and as he was coming down the mountain, he began hearing the celebration and the noise and everything. And when he came into sight of the camp and he saw that golden calf and the people dancing around it in celebration, he was so upset that he threw the 10 commandments, the 2 tables of stone that God had written the commandments into with his finger. He threw those sacred tablets to the ground. He was so angry. But when God told him he is going to kill all the people and do away with them because of this wickedness, Moses pled with him. He fasted and prayed for the people, and God had mercy upon them, and he spared their lives, many of their lives, not all of them. And then when Moses talked to Aaron and he asked him, why in the world did you do this? Aaron said, he told a lie. He said, well, they came to me and they said, we don't know what happened to you, so make us another god. And he said, I just threw the gold into the fire and this calf came out. He didn't tell, I guess he told partial truth, but he didn't tell the whole truth, did he? So there were 3 commandments that were broken right there. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images, and thou shalt not bear false witness or tell a lie. It's very important that we obey God's word, isn't it? And how do we start this? Or how do we maintain it, maybe, we should say, of being able to honor God and make him first in our lives? We do it by thinking high thoughts of God and low thoughts of ourselves. We honor God more than we honor ourselves. And as we honor God and think high thoughts of him, which it really helps to memorize the scriptures and to memorize good scriptural songs and to watch good movies and fill our minds with good biblical things. That makes all the difference in the world as to how we think. Remember how in Isaiah 55, he said, God's ways are higher, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. That's what God said. And anybody who comes to the Lord and in submission and obedience to him, says God will pardon their sins and have mercy abundant upon those people. And that's the kind of people that we want to be, don't we? Okay, we are out of time again, so we're going to have to sign off and call this our Sunday school lesson for today. So before we go, we're going to sing one little song, which is number 1 in the songbook, and it just wouldn't be right anyway to close without singing at least one song. So we will sing number 1 in our songbook, and it is I Will Sing to the Lord. It has such a pretty picture with it. Can you see that picture? I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. Okay, thank you very much, children. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.